74, right? Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, August 5th, episode 75. In today's podcast, we go and we stay with the Olympics. Fresh off the 104-83 win by the United States over Puerto Rico, we will look back on the United States, not only the performance versus Puerto Rico, but we will then preview the medal round with the United States taking on Brazil as a heavy 26.5-point favorite. Next, we stay with the medal round with the men, and we preview the rest of the games in chronological order, with obviously first game being Greece versus Germany, followed by Australia versus Serbia, and then lastly, Canada versus France in a match that people thought could be the second and third best team in this event, which may not be the case, and I'll make that case made in a little bit. With the USA men's game, we'll also look at props. We'll look at player props in regards to points, rebounds, and assists, so it can help give you what I'm leaning for the USA game. Remember, that tips off 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. Lastly, we'll go to the women. We'll take a look at their performance versus Germany in an 87-68 win. I'm going to talk about a little bit of my concerns, how you should bet the USA, particularly if we know the starting lineup beforehand. USA women move on to the medal round, in which they will take on Nigeria as a 25.5-point favorite. The line is so large, there's no money line for the game. Let's get started with the men that got off and finished their group play with a 104-83 win over Puerto Rico. Simply put, Ant-Man was the man. Anthony Edwards, 11 out of 15 from the floor, 26 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. Joel Embiid, 15, 3 and 2 after not playing versus South Sudan. Jason Tatum, who didn't play in the first game, with a double-double with 10 and 10. Alvarado leading the way with 18 points for Puerto Rico. And it was really a rough start by the Americans, who were down at the end of the first quarter, and it started to send a little bit of a trend. We don't get into really great starts at times with this team, because this is a team that really feels like at any point they could just blow teams out. You know, I went on Sports Grid a couple of days ago, and I loved Anthony Edwards' prop. It was at 12.5. And the reason being is, if there are blowouts, they're going to try to get guys involved, especially guys that are shot creators. And Ant is someone, if you looked at the shots during over the course of, you know, the group stage, Anthony Edwards was in the top 2, 3, if not the worst, 4th, and shot attempts. So he was going to get his looks. And to me, at 12.5, if Ant's going to get 10 shots a game, which he was basically getting, he's going to knock down 4 of them, maybe 5. 2 of them are going to be from 3. So if he hits 2 threes right there, that's 6 points. And now he's got to find a way to get you another 7 or more points, to get to his prop. So I thought that he came up really aggressive and really impressed me. The other one was interesting was Embiid, right? We talked about Embiid, and I want people to understand that Steve Kerr has talked about this a little bit. Matchups matter, okay? Matchups matter. So a team like Puerto Rico, in which they didn't worry about the low post play because of the fact of South Sudan was 5 out offensively, Joel Embiid was going to get time. Now, the interesting thing was, and I went looking for it, I thought it was a slam dunk for Embiid to get his points prop, because he didn't play the last game. He's, him and the French fans have been having fun. He's been really mocking them a little bit because they've been giving him a hard time. So he's going to show up and he's going to show out. And he absolutely did. Jason Tatum, 10, 3, really, really good. Liked his athleticism, liked his aggressiveness. But folks, at the end of the day, we are just so far superior to every team in this event. And it's about, can we play and do things the right way? After that first quarter of being outscored 29-25, the USA outscored them 39-16, 23-14. So here's my betting angle right now with the USA scheduled to be 26.5-point favorites versus Brazil. I don't like laying the points with this team pregame. I just look at them and I just don't know what I'm going to get out of them on an every game basis to start. So with the numbers being so high, here is what I'm always looking at. I always like, honestly, the USA in the second quarter minus the points. Ready? They won by 23 points versus Puerto Rico. They won by 7 points versus South Sudan. And against Serbia, they won by 4. So if I see, and Serbia is really good. So if I see the USA laying 5.5 in the second quarter, that is something that I'm going to look to get into immediately, because I think that is where we can kind of do a little bit of damage. So I think that's something that I start to look for as I look at the quarter props, because I want to see where I can find an advantage. Here's why. If the United States is off to a good start, they're going to use their depth and run guys in and out, because Steve Kerr wants to play a lot of guys, typically 11 guys in the first half. Usually Halliburton is the odd man out. Okay? So if you're running guys in and out and you're playing 11, and the other team can really go either 7 or 8, and there's a big drop-off between the bench and the starters, and there's no drop-off for us, that means there's going to be a point where the dam's going to break. It's somewhere in that second quarter is what you should be looking at. So with the game scheduled to tip off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, USA is a 7.5-point favorite in the second quarter. Okay? First quarter, they are 8.5. You can do it one of two ways. I'm going to lay the 7.5 in the second quarter. I'm going to lay the 7.5 in the second quarter, and then I'm going to lay, right now, it is 6.5 in the third quarter. I'm going to lay those two. If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter, because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead, because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win. And if it's a blowout, it could be time to put them away. So if it's a blowout first quarter, if they're up 10-12, I'm just going to keep the one bet of the minus 7.5. But if they're losing after one, and the spread is roughly around the same, right? Or if it's close, up 1, up 2, up 3, I'm going to double back down on that, because I do believe the second quarter is when we're going to make our mark. When you look at the points prop, simply put, I look at guys that, like I've said before, consistently get shots and points. So when you look at the United States, right, and you look at who we have on this team, LeBron 14.5, Durant 15.5, Ant Edwards 13.5. Folks, I keep looking at Anthony Edwards, right? 26 points versus Puerto Rico, took 16 shots. South Sudan, Anthony Edwards, a little bit of a quieter game Ant had versus them, and he had 13 points, 9 shots. Then you look at the third game that he had versus Serbia, the first game, and Anthony Edwards had 11 points, 6 shots. So if I think Anthony Edwards is going to get about 9 or so shots, because I expect the game to be a blowout, him at 13.5 is a point prop I'm looking at. Now, folks, I want you to be careful with Steph. Okay? You have to understand Steph Curry's points prop is right now at 12.5 on FanDuel, and Steph Curry's 3-point prop right now on FanDuel is over 2.5 at minus 156. Folks, the Olympic-sized basketball is different. Olympic-sized basketball, or the FIBA ball, I should say, 12 panels. USA is 8. Okay? The roundness of the ball, 29.5 inches for the men in the NBA, 30.7 in FIBA. The weight of the ball could be up to 2 ounces of difference. Folks, I'm a basketball coach for a long time. I struggle with just the difference between a men's and a women's ball, right? When I train kids. And I've touched an international ball, and it's weird. It's different. So people that are shooters, that could be a little bit of an issue. So be careful with Steph. But at some point, the dam is going to break, and Steph is going to go off. And I have a feeling it's going to be this game. So I'm going to be willing to lay the minus 156 on FanDuel for Steph Curry to make over 2.5 made threes. When you look at the rebounding prop, okay, our leader is Anthony Davis at 7.5. The reason why I like Anthony Davis to go over 7.5 in this game is Brazil is one of the best rebounding teams, especially on the offensive glass. Okay? They had 16 offensive rebounds versus Japan. Against Germany in their 86-73 loss, they got 12 offensive rebounds, right? If you look at their first game versus France, right, you go look at the box score, you think about this, they still got 11 offensive rebounds versus a team with a 7-4 and 7-1 front court of Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert. Rebounding is key. And Anthony Davis will get the minutes no matter what the matchup. He's great at attacking the boards. So I'm looking at Anthony Davis to go over 7.5 rebounds. So really quick, Anthony Davis over 7.5 rebounds. I will take Steph over 2.5 made threes. And I'm looking at Anthony Edwards over 13.5 points. Let's move on to the rest of the games in the medal round in chronological order based on when they play. First off will be Greece versus Germany. Germany right now is a 7.5 point favorite. If you think about the Germans, folks, I'm going to say this. I think besides the United States, this has been the most impressive team so far in the tournament. Okay? 14-point win versus France. 13-point win versus Brazil. 20-point win over Japan. So I think they've played really good basketball. Greece got off the snide with a 77-71 win. So when you look at that game, right, when you look at that game scheduled to be played at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the Germans as a 7.5 point favorite, folks, I'm gonna keep this pretty simple here, okay? I think the best way to do this is to look at team props. Germany does not want to run the ball up the floor, okay? And they're also going to do things in regard to try to keep Giannis out of the lane and make other people beat them. So even though the line is 7.5, my best bet that I'm looking at right now is I'm looking for Germany to hold Greece under 77.5 points. Okay? Greece has scored 79, 77, 77. Germany's held teams at 71, 73, 77. I think they're going to go and do a great enough defensive job and make things very tough and are going to make other people beat them. It's kind of like what they did to France, holding them to 71 points and basically saying to Wembanyama, you're not going to score. We're going to crowd it. We're going to make you shoot it from 3. We're not going to let you do anything inside, and we're going to win it that way. I think they force Greece to shoot it from 3. This is a Greek shooting team that I do think struggles from the 3-point line. If you look at their games, even against Australia, 9 out of 32 from 3. That's 28.1% in their last game. You look at their game versus Spain. They shot 12 out of 35 for 34%. And then you look at their first game of the Olympics against Canada, 86-79, and they lost, and they shot 9 of 32. So 2 out of 3 games they shot under 30%, one game shot at 34%. Pack it in, make them shoot it. I love Germany to hold Greece under 77.5 points. Next game to be scheduled to be played a little bit later in there at 8:30 a.m. is Serbia versus Australia. Serbia is the favorite at 6.5 points. And the Serbian team that after losing to the USA really looked good against South Sudan, particularly in the second half, in the fourth quarter, especially outscoring them by 6. Close game, opened it up at the end. And then you're looking at, obviously, the play of an Australian team that comes in with 2 straight losses. Remember, they're in that really tough group playing against Greece, Canada, and Spain. So when I look at this game, I'm going to go, honestly, I'm going to go to the points prop here, and that's where I'm going to look, right? And you're going to think, yeah, you're going to probably take, Nikola Jokic to get over his points prop. I'm not going there at 21.5. I honestly think that teams are going to try and take away the Joker and make other people play them. So I got to look at the second best player, which is Bogdan Bogdanovic. His player prop is at 17.5. Bogey went off for 30 points in the game versus South Sudan against Puerto Rico. He went for 13 points, but he only played 24 minutes because it was an absolute blowout. I expect this game to be closer. And obviously against the United States, you look at a guy like Bogdanovic, and he had 14 points. So USA game, blowout loss, 28 minutes, got to 14. Blowout win, he got to 10. But the game that was close, he got to 30. And I think that's where I'm leaning. I'm looking at Bogdan Bogdanovic to go over his points prop of 17.5 points because I do think teams are going to want to take away the Joker. If you want to look at a Joker prop, okay, I'm looking at Joker rebounds plus assists at 18.5. Simply put, it's different than South Sudan, who runs a 5-out offense, even though the Joker got his rebounds. I think they use the Joker in that pinch or that low post to kind of get guys going. He's going to rebound. Nikola Jokic over 18.5 rebounds plus assists. Next game on the schedule is a matchup that we thought we were going to see possibly, possibly later on, and that's France versus Canada. And simply put, folks, the Canadian team is struggling in some regards, in regards to their defensive intensity. But I think I've really overvalued France. I thought France was going to be the team that was going to give us the most problems. Simply put, they have extremely poor perimeter play. You win this tournament and you win in this league in the NBA with guard play. You're 1, you're 2, you're 3. Who has the matchup advantage between Canada and France? It's obviously Canada. With SGA, Lou Dort as a defender, Dylan Brooks, and RJ Barrett. They are better. They are better. I mean, there's no way around it. Than the guard combination of Stretzel, Fournier, and Nicolas Batum. So I'm going to just play Canada minus 7.5. I think they're going to play better. Remember, folks, France was down, over 20 points at the end of 3 versus Germany. And they're going to be a big disappointment for their country. Maybe the women will do better, but I'm not expecting much out of France in this. I think Canada will take it to them. They're far better shot creators and shot makers. And with Brooks defensively and Dort, any kind of offense, I think France can muster on the perimeter is going to be stifled by those two defenders. Give me Canada -7.5 over France. So really quick, going back, right? I am going to go ahead and I am going to look at the team total under for Greece in their game versus Germany. Moving on, I'm looking at Bogan Bogdanovic points prop at 17.5, Joker over 18.5, rebounds plus assists. And then for Canada, I'm just taking them -7.5. Let's end today's podcast talking about the women who won 87-68 versus Germany. Jackie Young off the bench, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 steals. Asia Wilson doing Asia things, didn't need to score a ton, 14 points. Stewie, 13 points. Game was a little bit interesting because you looked at the play of Germany. They wanted to slow the game down. They wanted to win the game on the perimeter. I want people to be very careful about betting the USA. Now, they did cover this game by the hook. My concern with the USA is I'm not crazy about Cheryl Ree's starting lineup. But there's something to watch, folks. Chelsea Gray started, the point guard, only 6 minutes. Hasn't played a ton since the first game, which she had 13 assists versus Japan. Diana Taurasi, 6 minutes, 1 shot. They struggled early and were down 19-16. When did the game flip? Jackie Young, Sabrina Ionescu. And then also some of the play of Kalia Copper and Kelsey Plum. If the United States changes their starting lineup and kind of puts Taurasi to the bench and Chelsea Gray to the bench, I will bet this game pregame. But I don't think they're going to do that. USA is -25.5 point favorites versus Nigeria. I think the best way to play this, and this is my crazy philosophy, and you're going to be like, wait, coach, there's so much. You are giving up so many points here. I would play, honestly, I'd wait for the game to start and hit second quarter. Okay, and see what I can get. Their total points in the first quarter is 23.5. They have not gotten off the great starts because they have not got the right people starting. So I can't touch anything in the first quarter. This is a live prop bet game. I want the game to start. If they don't have the lineup that I like, once you get Gray and DT out of the game, I may bet it live at that point minus the points. Because I think they turn it on once they come out the game. And then, if you also may want to play overall, our team prop is 91.5 points. Nigeria would want to kind of get up and down. They have not played anyone that's worthy of near us. We have scored 87, 102. Okay? They gave up, 70, 75, 62. Not playing strong teams. I'll take the USA team prop, and that will be a live bet opportunity. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast for August 5th. For all things sports gambling, download that Sports Grid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. Next podcast, we'll film on Wednesday. We'll get into the semifinals and see as the USA continues to ascend. And then we will also look at the women who should also be in the semifinals. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny, who always does a great job with the graphics, thank you for listening, folks. Remember, it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night.